And is that red? Boom, we are live. Welcome to Tokyo Tonight 2. It's good to see you all. I've had a long couple of days. I hope you're enjoying the long weekend. I should have checked what it's a long weekend for. I don't even know what the day off tomorrow is. I just know it's a day off, which I'm looking forward to. I will not be able to do the show next week because I will be traveling for work. I'll be leaving Saturday night, spending Sunday night at my dad's house in Phuket, which has terrible internet, which I've learned in the past. Plus, I've got to get up super early the next morning for work next week. But I will be back the week after that, and I will be there at the Hanami. So I'm going to do the Hanami announcement more or less now. In fact, I'll share on my Facebook and on Twitter ahead of time the information for it. I have awesome swag. I've got stickers, I've got flyers. In fact, let me share some of this. YouTube sent over a bunch of shirts which will be available for giveaways and so on at the Hanami. If it is raining, we will be from 2 p.m. at the hub, and if not, Yogi Park. The YouTube creator community. We've got this wonderful stuff from YouTube, which I will be sharing at the party. We have awesome stickers and all the shirt goodness. So yeah, it's all pretty cool stuff, and it'll be awesome. I know there's a bunch of you guys that are going to be in Japan. I'm very much looking forward to meeting Tai Nakamura. I won't be back until actually the 1st, as it turns out. But yeah, it's going to be great to see a lot of people there, and there'll be endless videos and so on. It's a great way for the community to connect and get together around that event. Let's see who's here. Oh, is it quiet? Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. I'm hoping that's just from before the show starting. I'm hoping that's it. The mic is a little bit quiet and I can bring it closer, but then I bump it and do all sorts of loud stuff. So James O'Hara, good to see you. And Robert, old dude, yes, it was very, very quiet before I started. Sergeant Buko, that's right. Observe the quietness, that's right. Good to see you, David Hunter. Who else is in here? We've got Mata Gaijinka in here. Colorio229, hello indeed. Chris Rodham. By the way, Colorio229, I appreciated your comments on SoundCloud, and nice to connect with you. Kimmy Kim says, boom, nice to have you, Kimmy Kim. Who else we got here? We got Tomar Hooper. Hello to you, Tomar Hooper. Good to have you on board. Tokyo Twilights. Dark Moon Horror. Andrea Moboy. Oh man, we've got everybody in here now. Channel Ralph. Caroline Van Oostendeboer. Great to have you here. And Azuki Island with your cup of sake, which makes the whole thing a lot more informative. So yes, let's get into. Tell you the truth, there hasn't really been a lot of interesting Japanese news lately, and I've been just totally flat out. So it's going to be interesting for me as well. I'm going to be going through the stuff that I've been tweeting this week and see if there's actually anything interesting in any of that. So yeah. We got this. This is actually my good friend Kenji there. He just tweeted this, and I've been trying to read it. Too many tourists going to New Zealand, and they talk about the volcanic plateaus, which is interesting because I used to live on the volcanic plateaus. So if they're talking about Tongariro, I used to live in that part of the country. So what are they talking about? I mean, I guess they're saying that people are, they say volcanic plateaus, but there's only really one. Although in Naitahu, that's the South Island one. They talk about people sleeping in Maori meeting houses, by which they mean to say marae, that's the name of them, but I guess people wouldn't get this. The Tongariro crossing, I did that when I was in high school. It is awesome. Yeah, it's only a singular, not a plural, but I've done that walk, and that is real. That is not Mordor. There is no phosphorus in the soil up on the central plateau, and just stuff doesn't grow, particularly above a certain altitude. It's beautiful though. They have some really cool lakes. It's a great hike, and you should do it even if the New Zealand environment can't handle it, because seriously, it's not the tourists' fault. Hell, the farmers did all the damage long before the tourists did. This still is a very nice place to go. You should totally go to New Zealand. We have another piece there from the Japan Times talking about the Moritomo school scandal, which is basically just a scandal which is enveloping the Japanese government at the moment. Hey, Travis Moore, good to see you. Yeah, it sort of goes through how it's kind of typical of the I would say it's gotten to media frenzy standards now, which is that even when there's something wrong with what's happening with that, it's sort of even when it's justified, the way that the media goes crazy, it almost makes you feel, bad for the bad guys, and that's a little bit of the case here with this Moritomo Gakuen scandal. They're actually going to be knocking down the school. They've had their application to have a school revoked. That said, I mean, at least based on the information that's out there, these do appear to be, loons. They are right-wing sort of fanatics that were racist towards students that were non-Japanese. Had some Chinese kids who went to the school. Rather than defending the kids, the principal said, well, he didn't understand why a Chinese kid would want to come to this school in the first place. Berated mothers who were working, saying that it contradicts family values. And this was the school that Abe's wife was honorary principal of, and that Abe, the school claims, donated money to the foundation of the school, as well as another number of other right-wing celebrities like Devi Sukano. However, the way that it's coming out and embarrassing everybody, it is a very typical scandal. And how politics works, I guess. I mean, they're linked. The group, which is founding the school, a very right-wing group, is linked to Nihon Kaigi, which is a big lobby group in Japan. Davo Hunter, film at 11, real nose tooth just broke. Congratulations on that. So what else we got in here? We got this is funny. Yes, a top-rated company says that all employees who don't read the Twitter of the boss won't be hired. Of course, nobody actually reads that person's Twitter. The BBC Dad interview was parodied by, it looks like R2-D2, BB-8, and Princess Leia with Darth Vader there. Hey, Pigglesy Gaijin, good to have you there. And Braska Farron, good to see you. Yes, how to start crushing your Instagram game. I should read that sometime. Some Japanese peacekeepers were arrested in South Sudan, which is a place you wouldn't want to be arrested, but they were in their work uniforms, United Nations uniforms, and they were arrested under suspicion of having illegal weapons, which I guess goes to show. I mean, so Japan, if you hadn't heard, is pulling out its peacekeepers from South Sudan. They've been there for 5 years, and congrats to them for that. Pardon me, I have to blow my nose. In fact, one sec, let me see if I can. I guess I can't mute. Pardon me, hay fever season. I hope you couldn't hear that. I think you couldn't. I think I was successful at muting it. But if not, I apologize, because that did not sound good. But yes, so South Sudan, they're coming back, and some are saying it's partly to do with the government wanting to have good press because of the Moritomo school scandal. That's looking pretty bad. But there again, it's not even really good press. I mean, it just looks like they're running away when the security situation there is getting worse, which is the whole purpose of having peacekeepers there in the first place. You have to sort of also ask about the whole, what is going on with South Sudan? It's a bit like East Timor in some ways, that, granted, it had a legitimate claim to becoming a separate country, and, that convinced most of the United Nations to recognize it as a separate country. But in the end of the day, it's an internal situation. It just obviously wasn't ready. They went straight into this sort of crazy civil war, and they've never gotten the country quite under control. But of course, no matter what unviable country you are, the United Nations always seems more willing to recognize your independence when you have a shitload of oil, which is what East Timor has and South Sudan has. I don't know if there's actually some sort of plan for Japan to get any benefit from that, but it's good that we were there anyway. Muted well, it worked. Awesome. Well, that's a good thing. Now I know I can do that very easily. Yes, a BBC camera crew was caught in a volcanic eruption on Mount Etna. That was kind of cool. Hyperloops, which is stuff that I want to see. Apparently on YouTube now you can watch dozens of nuclear tests which I must admit I'm kind of curious to see. One thing I've always felt about nuclear tests, and people talking about in New Zealand, they're very passionate about the global international nuclear weapons ban. We got sanctioned for a prolonged period of time by America. In fact, we got kicked out. New Zealand's in a funny place with America, actually. Long story short, we used to have a big defence alliance, which was part of how America would keep the Pacific under control, which involved Australia, New Zealand, and America. And we got kicked out because we passed a law banning nuclear weapons, but also banning ships carrying them, which meant that the Americans who don't confirm or deny whether they have nuclear weapons on ships, we couldn't dock in our ports anymore. So when I was in law school, you have to understand the anti-nuclear thing is very, very big in New Zealand. And a lot of people, they make a big deal about the need to outlaw nuclear weapons, and it's something that the superpowers pay lip service to, but of course are complete, never actually follow through on at all. But at the same time, they're terrible weapons, and what really makes them terrible is not, to me, so much the radiation and the atomic stuff. By the way, you have New Zealanders to thank you for, in Los Alamos, the scientists that built the first atom bomb. A lot of them worked for the guy who split the first atom, who was a New Zealander. They were from his lab in New Zealand. In fact, I actually had schoolmates who were from kids of the New Zealand scientists from Los Alamos. But yeah, although we gave you the bomb, then New Zealand decisively told the world it was a bad idea to have them. I would always get into these arguments in law school tutorials. What's bad about nuclear weapons? Well, radiation and stuff all kind of sucks, but basically the problem is that they're so big it's very hard to use them in a legitimate, warfare-based way. There's almost no way you could drop an atom bomb and not cause civilian damage. And that's the principle. However, there's people talk about the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings as the worst war crimes ever by some, at least I suppose military war crimes. Of course, the Holocaust is the worst, so that's not really true. But in terms of like bombing by allies, anyway. But no, actually, much more people died in the firestorm of Tokyo. And in the end of the day, the people who died in Hiroshima, they didn't die from the nuclear flash. The vast majority of those people died from the firestorm that resulted from the nuclear bomb, not from the nuclear bomb explosion itself. And it was the same in Tokyo. I mean, they created a firestorm just in a different way. They used incendiaries in Tokyo. They dropped napalm all over the whole city and caused a firestorm, which basically became its own big firestorm, which wiped out something like, what was it? It was like 30% of the area of central Tokyo, and caused 1 million homeless and killed 100,000 people. It was much worse actually than the nuclear bombs. So you can do it with conventional weapons. And I'd always make the point, in the end of the day, I don't feel like you should give conventional weapons a pass and treat nuclear weapons as that special. Although frankly I think I was being argumentative. But that said, these are some serious, fucked up things, and you can see this in the bomb test videos. I've seen a few GIFs of them. I say GIF with a hard G, and they are fascinating to watch. I admit that. Yesterday I went to the Agrodrome. There is an Agrodrome in it's like Thunderdome, except it's the Agrodrome. It's like the New Zealand version of Mad Max. There is actually one of these in Rotorua that I went to as a kid, and in Japan they actually have one there. In Chiba, in Mother Farm. It was a good day out. You can see the New Zealand flag there, and I heard the Japanese people around me all confused saying, "What flag is that?" And, "Oh, I think it's the Australian flag." And see, I mean, imagine if the Canadians had a flag that was exactly like the American flag, except it all had little red bits in the middle of all the stars. I mean, seriously, nobody would realize that was Canada's flag anymore. But that's what we have with Australia. It's not entirely our fault, because technically I think we were a country before really Australia sort of came together into a unified Commonwealth, where they also did the favour of including us in the definition of their territory, even though we asked not to be. They constitutionally invaded us with their definition. But yeah, we had a chance to change the flag last year, and New Zealanders didn't do it because we were petty and small-minded, and we didn't like the Prime Minister, who we thought was doing it for a vanity project. But at the end of the day, it would have given us a flag that, in this event, well, people would look at it and say, "I have no idea what that flag is. Is that country? Is that New Zealand? Is that the island above Australia?" People would still say those things, but at least they wouldn't confuse our flag with the Australian flag, which more people know. So yes, Bob Turner, that is correct. We had a referendum and we voted to keep the Australian flag as our national flag. For those who want to know, the Australian flag is basically it's more accurate. It's got white stars. They're actually the correct sizes and the correct layout from the actual, the stars are not actually red in the Southern Cross. New Zealand's flag is basically an inaccurate representation of the Southern Cross with little red bits in the middle of the stars. Yay, New Zealand. Yes, nobody, even kids, even New Zealanders are confused as to which is our flag when they show us the Australian flag and the New Zealand flag. But there again, we voted to keep the confusing flag because screw the Prime Minister, and I thought that was a terrible mistake, and I was reminded of that when I was there. That said, they had beautiful, beautiful sheep at this place, and a lot of New Zealand sheep dogs as well, so it was really, really pretty good. Dark Moon Horror, have I been watching the Six Nations? I have not, but I've been following the results, and I have to say congrats to the Irish. I mean, they did it to us, and now they did it to the English, and I don't know, for me, it's been kind of boring being a New Zealand fan, I've got to say. I mean, the gap that New Zealand has at the top as being the top team in the world we've got so much of a lead. I'm actually quite enjoying seeing Eddie Jones doing an excellent job with the English team, and I quite like the idea. It's like watching Rocky 3. You have to build up the rival. Even you go into the movie theatre and you know that Rocky's going to win, so they have to spend 90% of the movie convincing you, hey, Rocky might actually lose this one, even though it's his name on the movie, and that's what it's like supporting the All Blacks. It's nice to have some hype around the idea of someone who might be able to beat us, and England looks like they're going that way. That said, the Irish stopped us in America, I think it was as well, where they beat us, or was it at home? But they stopped England, so congrats to England. Good to see Italy getting stronger and stronger as well, which is pretty good. Hey, Renhoek, good to see you. But yeah, I've been following the results, so congrats to Ireland. Still great to see England really, really getting strong. And we'll see. Toma Hoopi, you can how I tell the difference between the Australian and New Zealand flags. One of them kicks our ass at cricket, the other at rugby. Yes, that's right, basically. Well, and Australia has pretty good rugby teams, and we sometimes have good cricket teams, but that is correct. Hey, Michael Pickett, good to have you along. That's right, Nicholas Rapp was looking for small TVs. I said go to kakaku.com, which is a Japanese electronics shopping site. Hey, fever time, I have to blow my nose again, 1 second. Yes, that worked pretty well. Brescaferin, I didn't realise that Scotland was playing good. They've been really shit for like the last 10 years or so. They used to be, top class, so that's good to see as well. And I'm really looking forward to when we get the internationals with New Zealand and Australia back as well. So let's see what's interesting here. Netflix is switching from a star rating system to thumbs up, thumbs down. They're basically copying YouTube. Oh yes, which reminds me, even before this tonight, I'm up to almost the end of season 3 of House of Cards. It was on Sky Perfect TV, on satellite TV, and I watched the first season. I had to see the rest, so I signed up to Netflix for the first time ever, basically to binge watch House of Cards, and I'm enjoying it. I'm compelled by it, but it's not exactly uplifting. In fact, I feel kind of dirty after I watch it. But wow, Wales beat Ireland pretty bad, but Ireland beat England. Well, there you go. So it looks like it's been a good Six Nations. Azuki Island, a little bit of hay fever. I'm a little bit blocked up today. I don't get it that bad this time of year actually, so it's not that bad, but it is what it is. So what else we got here? The James Webb Telescope is going to be awesome when that goes up into space. Yes, this has been news for me because I've been addicted to watching the House of Cards, and I'm almost at the end of season 3, and it's pretty good. Look at this, we got Gact and Samuel L. Jackson posing. Who knows what they would say, what sort of conversation they would have together, but that is pretty cool. The new hires all wearing the same clothes and looking the same, having the same hairstyle almost, and all looking in the same direction at Seven & I Holdings. There you go, welcome to Japan. So yes, apparently the boycott of Korea, you know how China's been boycotting Korea over the American THAAD missile defense system, which has been deployed in Korea, ostensibly to protect it from attacks from North Korea, but also to protect America from North Korean missile attacks, and just conveniently puts a dome over South Korea, which actually blocks off half of China's missiles that may or may not be aimed at America. And this pisses off China a lot that Korea would do this to them, so they've been very aggressively boycotting Korea. And the result is that a lot of businesses dependent upon Korean tourism appear to be empty. Apparently that's the story. And yeah, you know, some people are saying, wow, it looks really clean now. And other people are pointing out this is what you call China risk. You know, if you actually put a missile defense system. These are not missiles that are going to be aimed at shooting at China. They're only aimed at shooting down Chinese nuclear weapons if it should fire them at America. And yet, China is aggressively now boycotting and pressuring Korea, which of course still has no functioning government really that is to speak of. You know, over this whole thing. And they're not pressuring North Korea at all, and they're the ones who fired 4 missiles at the same time the other day just to prove that they could do it, which is the whole justification for this missile defense shield. But China's punishing South Korea over it, not North Korea. A lot of politics, a lot of drama about it, but you know, there you go. Mr. Cordy Champ, hey, you couldn't get to sleep, but don't worry, you've come here. That's what I'm here to help you with. Minimal entertainment promise, don't worry. Yeah, there's going to be Japan. In fact, I'm guessing that there will be the castle replicas and so on at the Nagoya Legoland, which will be awesome. Your eyes feel like they're about to fall out of your head. Well, hey Ben Duncan, good to see you. So what else we got here? A 70-year-old man managed to drive all the way up to the top of a pedestrian road crossing footbridge before noticing that it wasn't made for cars. The internet was generally impressed that he made it up that high, so that was pretty impressive. What else we got here? We got people with smaller JPEGs are coming. That's pretty cool. Apparently on YouTube, a lot of people making LGBTQ videos are getting flagged as for restricted mode as being content possibly not suitable for young people, which is, I suppose that's a tricky one, isn't it, in terms of for YouTube today? Yeah, I mean, I don't really see why, if it was just the content, if it was just talking, if it was just you know, general, I don't see that. But there again, I can imagine a lot of conservatives are flagging these videos, and it's interesting, does YouTube aggressively unflag them, or what do they do? This is another interesting one. A lot of my older videos have a lot of these annotations, but of course the annotations, they only work on desktop, not on mobile, but YouTube is killing them. You've got these end cards now and a lot of mobile friendly, much better features on the videos. So yeah, Tatsuji Yoshimura, that is indeed correct. Matome sites are the opinions of the aggregators. Well, let's think about that. So Matome sites are aggregation sites that this Itai News, which I do like to read, it's a Matome site. It's a site that curates content from Nichan that basically are popular news threads about the news with comments, and they curate comments. And I suppose it could be all sorts of comments, but generally what Itai News is good for is it's good for picking up either the general feel of the threads or the particularly entertaining comments. I mean, generally it's mostly just people it's a peanut gallery. They're throwing peanuts at the news. And what I like about it is actually that, to me, it shows that Japanese are often very sensitive about talking about politics or being so cynical. And a lot of people get the impression when they come to Japan that Japanese people do not have a sense of humor, or they don't have any sort of sophisticated insight about news or anything like that. People don't realize that this sort of thing exists, but truth is, where Japanese feel safe, which is Nichan is designed for anonymity to be a safe place, they say actually very entertaining things, and you know, they can be just like it's basically like Reddit, and that's what I enjoy. And yeah, I'm sure that of course when you have these curated Matome sites where they take out specific news articles and they choose the comments that they want to show, I think they're mainly going for entertainment rather than pushing an agenda, although no question, I mean, everybody's got an agenda, right? You're always going to have some sort of bias, but yeah, I don't think it's necessarily, I mean, especially. So you take the case of this, what are the curated comments of the 70-year-old person that drove his car up a footbridge? Wow! Yokonoto, he did a good job climbing up there. He says, yeah, dude, get a clue before you get all the way up there. How much of an idiot is this guy? number one. That's right. I looked at this and it made me laugh out loud. Well, this is really something. What else we got here? 自分が車を運転していることすら認識していないボケです。This guy's clearly Alzheimer's. He didn't even realize that he was driving his car as he was going up the footbridge. And all these other sorts of comments. I mean, this is for entertainment, but for example, it's funny. Japanese people in a safe, dark room will make comments as stupid as people in any other country. That's what I like about these things. So yeah, apparently personal financial assets in Japan hit a record. Japanese are buying assets more than ever. By the way, I like transit incidents. Well, that's Naver. I don't really like Naver. I do subscribe to Hatena bookmarks, which are pretty good. So yeah, we got former islanders meet Russian lawmakers. I'll come back to this again. I've said this before. Whenever you talk about the three big territorial disputes that Japan has with China, Korea, and Russia, respectively, and people say, "Oh, look, Japan's being a hypocrite." Where they've got the island, they say that there is no issue, and where they don't have the island, they say it is an issue. There are material differences between each one of the disputes, and the biggest dispute. Hey, Kohoshino, good to see you. Is that the Russian islands, the islands that the Russians now occupy and have occupied since the end of World War II, were settled. Lots of people lived on those islands, and not only were those islands taken over, but the people who lived on those islands were abducted, they were arrested, they were deported to Siberian labor camps, some of them until the 1960s, for 20 years, some of them. Just civilians, normal people lived on these islands. It wasn't just that the Russians came and took these islands over. They actually came and they deported the entire populations. It was a form of genocide that actually Stalin was pretty into. He did it with, ethnic groups that were seen as being disloyal. He moved them from, for example, partisans from the Ukraine and Cossacks were taken and shifted all the way out to, the Far East, and vice versa. Some of the people who were put onto the islands by Stalin were deportees from other parts of Russia. And when he found these new Japanese people from this land that he took, he deported a lot of them, and it took them decades to get back to. He didn't deport them. To Siberian labor camps, and it took some of them decades to get back to Japan. Some of them never came back to Japan. Some of them still live in Siberia. Like they just decided after they were set free to stay where they were. They got married or whatever. This happens when you live in a place for 20, 30 years, even as a prisoner. The survivors came back to Japan and settled in Japan in the town of Nemuro, which is like 5 kilometers away from these islands. They're right off the coast. And on those islands are the family graves, the houses, the properties, the roads that they used to own. Now, the Senkaku Islands were occupied. They were settled for the purpose of fishing, like some fishing factories. But basically no one's lived on those islands for like 100 years now. And for Takeshima Island, or Dokdo as the Koreans call it, that they occupy, it's a bunch of shitty rocks. It was used as a bombing range by the Americans. It was more about fishing rights, but of course the Koreans felt like it was a good opportunity to get one back against Japan. They also felt that the annexation of those islands 5 years before Korea was annexed was a precursor to the annexation of Korea and part of the chain of actions of annexing Korea, rather than the Japanese argument, which is that it was separate to and independent of the annexation of Korea. But fine, at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of shitty rocks, and who really gives a shit? I mean, seriously, Japan's never going to get those rocks back. But it's a totally different issue because people never lived on them. The Russian issue is different. And it makes it sensitive. The Russians are good enough now that they do allow families to come back and visit the family graves on those islands, which is a big deal for Japanese people. And they've allowed a degree of visa-free travel. However, this is something where whenever the Japanese try to push the envelope on that, the Russians push back and start to put military bases and so on the islands instead, and that's what's been happening as Japan's been increasing the sort of hopes that they might get some sort of deal to get even one or two of the 4 islands back. The Russians have gone the other way, and they've gone and put military bases and kind of tried to wind it back. No, Dokdo Island has no oil, Phoenix. You're talking about the wrong ones. And there's no oil, at least that we know about, around the Northeast Territories, the Southern Kurils. So yeah. Hopefully there'll be some sort of deal to. And there've been a couple of times under Koizumi as well. There was a time when there was some hopes up, and the island is there for a time. We're talking about. Well, it might be good. You could turn it into a free trade area between Japan and Russia, and it could be good for the Far East economy of Russia, which is very isolated, obviously, from Europe, and it might be good for them for investment and so on. But yeah. So Azuki Island, but still Japanese citizens, right? Oh yeah. Well, they were deported in the end of the day. After spending 20, 30 years, and up to about the late 1960s, living in Siberian labor camps. Which, bear in mind, 4 times the length of the war some of these people spent in Siberian concentration camps. Most of them apparently came back to Japan. They've always been Japanese citizens, and they lived there. The problem is that the islands themselves were settled after World War II by the Russians, and now there are a lot of Russians who have been living on some, good 20, 30,000 people have been living on these islands now for 70 years. Multi-generational. So it's actually, for as long as Israel, for example, nothing like the population. A different issue perhaps, but now even the Japanese side acknowledges that you can't just pretend that the Russians who have lived there for multiple generations now don't need to be taken in consideration either. So it's a tricky issue for both sides. But yeah, it's interesting to see that these people who used to live on these islands have been Russian lawmakers, I guess, to sort of put across what they would like from their own perspective. An Okinawan anti-base activist. This is apparently was charged with assaulting a Japanese self-defense force person who was trying to take down a protest camp that was actually inside the boundary of a military heliport, not military self-defense force heliport. So yeah. I'm very confused by Tatsuji Nishimura. So many verbs starting with SN is related to nose and have negative meanings. I don't understand what that is, but anyway, the Okinawan thing continues to be a mess. I guess I won't go into that. By the way, you can all drop comments or questions in the comments whenever you like. I am looking at them as I do this, and I'm very happy to take questions on any topic that's interesting. Parappa the Rapper is coming back. I love this game, and it's coming for PS4, even though I don't have one, but it's a great game. YouTube is going to boost the quality of online VR video. I think they're going for 8K, which I guess you just have to buffer. You wouldn't be able to really stream that. But I think they said somewhere that they were going to support basically 8K, which again, when you work with 2 screens and you're looking all the way around, you need higher quality to be able to watch it. So that is still very, very cool. Speaking of the Russians they want to go to the moon, and that's a very badass looking black capsule there. That doesn't really look like a lunar landing module, but there we go. The Russians don't want to get left behind. Bezos and Musk and now NASA's saying that they're going to go there, so that's pretty cool. Self-driving cars that can go super fast, apparently 2.9 seconds to 100 kilometers per hour is now the standard. And boom, Frank Oz, who is awesome, it's an interview there. Russian hackers totally owned Yahoo's. Yahoo really messed up with not telling all of their users that they had been severely hacked. This is super cool. So apparently you can use the sun's gravitational lens as an actual optical lens, as a telescope lens. If you go the right distance from the sun, which they say is 100 astronomical units, the distance between the Earth and the sun. So you'd have to go out way beyond Pluto's orbit. You'd actually have to go out way into interstellar space. But if you put a decent telescope at the right distance, about, takes 40 years to get, away from the sun, they reckon that you would be able to use the sun's gravitation to create a lens effect, which would be powerful enough to be able to actually observe planets, clearly observe planets around other stars. So they're looking at how to get a telescope that far out into basically it's not even in the solar system anymore. It would be interstellar space. But if you can do that, you'd be able to get the payoff in terms of what you could get for imaging would be super awesome. So that's something that's very interesting. Darkman Horror asks, let's go the 2 of them. Let's go in order. Renhoek, do those islanders consider themselves Japanese or Russians? The islanders from that news story are now living in Nemuro in northern Japan. My understanding is that the majority of the people on those islands were of Ainu heritage, basically the pre-Yamato, the indigenous people who are ethnically related to the people who are also along the Kuril and the Aleutian Islands. But that said, those people are very much Japanese people. Some of the people who were deported to Siberia became Russian. In fact, some of even the regular sort of migrant Japanese people who were living on those islands. But let's be clear, the former islanders that we're talking about are Japanese, and they live in Japan, or at least the ones that got out of the Soviet Union. However, the people who have forcibly settled on the islands, who live on those islands today, and most of the Russian Far East, were people who either voluntarily migrated within the Soviet Union and Russia, or were forcibly put there by Stalin right after World War II and have lived there ever since. And they are totally Russian and very nationalistic Russian. And the people who live on those islands now are Russian. But the former islanders, the people who owned the land which the Russians are living in, the people who built the towns on those islanders were Japanese, and that was completely under Japanese control until, there's a bit of a land grab at the end of World War II. So yeah, those people are, I think, unambiguously Japanese. Some people have said give them to the Ainu, but there is no Ainu country. I mean, Hokkaido and Ainu territories, I think the final ones were incorporated into Japan at the very beginning of the Meiji period, which is around the same time that America pretty much finished conquering, its own territory from its own indigenous people. Dark Moon Horror, did I get a Nintendo Switch, and how is it doing in Japan? I didn't get a Nintendo Switch, but apparently it is selling way more than anyone expected. It is actually, I think it's the fastest selling Nintendo product in history. And I think it's because of the convenience of the portability of it, especially in Japan. I mean, it was made for Japan. If you live in Tokyo, you commute by train every day, it makes total sense that you want a console that, you don't have to only play when you're stuck at home, that you can play on the train. So apparently it's selling very, very well. I mean, I was hearing like Zelda's the only good game for it, but apparently there are enough good games coming out. Like, people just love the console concept, so that's working really, really well. And yes, please, any other questions that you've got there, let me know. So what else we got in here? The Gundam statue was taken down, but there's going to be another one that's going to get put up there in a couple of years, and apparently the new one is going to move, so that's going to be super awesome. This is what I was talking about before. Although this is a different one. This is how they're turning the Earth into a telescope. They're just using a very wide area to image black holes, which is super cool. What else we got here? Netflix is changing its look. Nuclear explosion gifts, which are crazy. New drum machine. Party bot. As you can see, there's not a lot of new Japanese news this week. YouTube is killing annotations, but that's life. Apparently members of Japanese crime syndicates fall below 20,000 for the first time. This is an interesting one. I guess you guys all have read Tokyo Vice and so on, and so you all have a basic knowledge of how the Yakuza work. But basically, the Yakuza in Japan, in spite of being illegal, they also register with the police the names of their members, and so their members are actually tracked. And it's kind of weird. It kind of contradicts the idea of being a secret organized crime society, that you'd actually register your members with the government, but they do. And there are 20,000. Apparently, the numbers have been falling. And some would argue this isn't a good thing, because the whole idea is that if they're in an organized crime syndicate that has, open communications with the police and so on, people always used to look at it as a way of kind of regulating crime, through sort of managing it through these sort of groups. And the less regulated it is, one of the justifications that crime bosses have used in interviews is saying, you don't want these hoodlums around on the street holding up old ladies and robbing random people. At least if they're with us, we only rob people who deserve it. That's the way that they thought about it. And some would say that the fact that it's falling is a sign perhaps of other types of crime, international crime syndicates, more random crime and so on, less organized crime. But that said, crime statistics also have been going down, so this looks like it's a good thing. But it's an interesting thing that this statistic even exists. Raza Ul Ghul asks, any plans to visit London this year? Good question. I would have wanted to go to London. My sister, there was talk about getting together and doing a trip to France in August, but it's not going to work out well with the school holidays. So unfortunately, no. Renhoek, you bet they register the members for tax purposes. I'm not sure actually if there is a tax benefit to it, but yeah, maybe they have they get to collect I don't know, health insurance or something like that. But I would love to go to London, but I don't have any plans for it this year, I'm afraid. I hope you can get out here sometime. Shinjuku, people are still skinny in Japan. Yep. What else we got here? Is there anything else interesting? There's, oh yeah, swag. So that's the swag that I was just showing you just before. We've got all of that stuff for the Hanami, so that is going to be awesome. Cross-cultural marriage. Toshiba is at risk of actually being delisted from the Tokyo Stock Exchange, which would be a disaster, and in order to save itself, it is looking at flogging of Westinghouse, which is the American nuclear power company that it acquired. And it seems like a good idea for an investment, right? What could be safer than American nuclear power plants? But apparently it was a massive disaster. Like, those things just are a terrible business. And they're going to bring down Toshiba, and Toshiba's asking for a buyer for its businesses that's going to be respectful of keeping Japanese jobs. But yeah. Oh, and hang on a sec. RIP. Stream is dead. Really? Is the stream dead? Can you not see me? Oh no. Oh. Hang on. Oh, we're back. Are we back? I think we're back. No, I think I was... Woo! It worked. I don't know what just happened there with the dropping out, but okay, it's good. I'm back. I'm still not black, but that's okay. It rhymes if I say not in front. Johnny 5 is alive. That's right. Short Circuit, great movie. Okay, well, let's keep going. Anyway, I was talking about how Toshiba's screwed. 10 things to do in Kabukicho. This is very disappointing that they didn't include the batting cages, which are like, to me, the best part. Mr. Cordychip, I'm sorry. I thought I thought that it was disconnected. I thought I had privacy and I thought I could clear my throat. Yeah, I apologize for that. But good to see that we're all back. Anyway, Kabukicho, the batting cages. You got to go to the baseball batting cages in the middle of Kabukicho if you go there. Yes, how to deal with being the foreign chick in the Japanese office. I get that. Well, I kind of do. There's actually a lot of stuff here that is not female specific, but yes, unfortunately. Some of these things, you speak for the world, remarks about your appearance are compliments. I guess that's kind of true if you're a guy as well. Your life's private details are fair game. Not so much. You must be Genki and friendly all the time. Maybe you are temporary. That's true, whether you're a foreigner or not, whether you're a male or female. And I thought there were more things, but anyway. Yeah, how to deal with being the foreign chick. It's good. I can relate to a lot of what was there. That's interesting. Michael Pickett, your stream did not cut out. Well, I'm sorry about that. And by the way, I'm sorry about the clearing throat noises that I made while I thought I was offline. That was embarrassing. Apparently, a prominent Japanese director hates he resents the anime industry for being so successful that now there's pressure on everybody to make anime movies. Which again, the comments, which may or may not be the opinion of the aggregator, but he aggregated comments which basically said, well, how about the Japanese non-anime movie directors actually start making decent movies and not garbage for a change? Harsh, but I'm with them. I'm with them. I mean, basically, what can they do when the anime movies just happen to be better than half of the crap that comes out of the movies here? Philip DeFranco's fighting with his bosses. There we go, fighting the power. Yeah, what else have we got here? We've got Inada refuses to resign. This is the controversial kindergarten that I was talking about. Again, the right-wing one. The abuses to do with basically calling up the principal calling up mothers at work, saying that you shouldn't be working if you're a good Japanese, red-blooded Japanese mother. Toshiba begs to stay on the Tokyo Stock Exchange, which may or may not happen because they haven't been able to file their financials. The Minister of Defense, Tomomi Inada, she said that she had never had any legal connection or never acted as a lawyer for the controversial right-wing crazy Nippon Kaigi School, Moritomo Gakuen. And she, and questioning in Parliament, she said she'd never done it. Somebody found proof that she had. And then she apologized and said, oh, I must have been. And people have said that she's basically lied in Parliament. They've been trying to get her to resign. But she's saying, no, I don't want to resign. Kimi Kim Kim. Indeed, there are some good Japanese scary movies. Kanadam. How about the yobiste in the office as a foreign female male? When you say yobiste, what do you mean by that? Like how you get called? The fact that people call you by your first name, that's just normal. I've been here 20 years. I'm slowly getting used to it still. Hey, Giancarlo Sands, I'm glad that you're back. Good to have you back. Indeed, good to have everybody back. Apparently, yeah, it looks like... in fact, what is his name again? It's like, I always remember it's like Kim Han Solo. Han Sol. I think it's Kim Han Sol is his son's name. He's got a really cool name. Seriously, if I was Korean and I was going to call my name, if I was a member of the Kim family and I was going to have a kid, I'd probably go with Kim Jong-nam. He's got good taste in naming kids. Okay, so he's got 3 kids, but in any case, the Japanese government provided fingerprints, and the son provided DNA to confirm the identity of Kim Jong-nam. And pretty typical stuff from North Korea. With son, you get son, but on the first name, not the last name. Kanadam. And this is, it does remind me, like North Korea kind of demanded to be allowed to join in the investigation into the assassination that they carried out in North Korea. They demanded the immediate return of the body that was killed with VX, that they said could not have been done with VX and was totally not done by us. It reminds me of when Japan got North Korea to hand back the abductees on the basis of that Japan promised that they would give them back the abductees after letting them have a visit to Indonesia to meet other family members. And when Japan did not allow them to return to North Korea quite comfortably claimed in public, well, you've kidnapped our kidnapped people. You've kidnapped them back. It's what they called rescuing them. So North Korea doesn't really have a problem with just saying completely fucked up shit. It really doesn't. And this whole story of Malaysia. And man, Malaysia's been on a rough run. I hope things start improving for them. Life may have arrived on Earth in the first 1 billion years, which is pretty interesting. Rockets, self-cleaning bag for the gym. That's pretty cool. Hidden hearing loss. But look at this. There's not a lot of Japan stuff. There's a New Zealand stuff here about Kim.com and his documentary about his battles with the American Justice Department, which are being proxied through the New Zealand government, basically wanting to get rid of him for being an embarrassment. A Taiwanese soldier who fought for Japan and his many good fortunes. Taiwanese seem to be a lot less hung up on issues with Japan in World War II, partly because, of course, the KMT martial law in Taiwan was arguably worse in many ways than the Japanese occupation, although, of course, you've got people from both sides of that debate. And I don't know how, which side of that to take. The Japan Judo Federation, I didn't know this either, the Japan Judo Federation required that female black belts keep a white line in the middle of the black belt. Hey Ty, good to see you, man. And yeah, looking forward to seeing you in Japan soon. I'm going to be wrapping this up in about 5 minutes, but what else have we got here? That's right, apparently, which newspaper was it? Was it the Sankei News? One of the newspapers did an apology of the people of Kansai in a full-page newspaper spread where they did the apology in sort of really cheesy Osaka accent. I don't know if you could imagine like a typed Texan accent apology by the New York Times or something, but basically it triggered it triggered a lot of resentment from people saying this is like a Tokyo person putting on a fake Osaka accent, and there's not an apology, they're mocking us. And everybody in the comments basically does what anyone from Tokyo does when they make fun of Osaka people. They nanya seyana, basically making fun with instead of des they put ya on the end of their sentences and stuff like that. Basically they are poking fun, even though I don't know if that was what the Sankei was originally doing. Yeah, the dismantling of the Gundam statue was pretty cool. So some people from Rocket News did what I've never done. They actually went inside and relayed the experience of going to a telephone club. A telephone club is a gaudy, they've always got the sort of same look, and there's a lot of them in the suburbs and the sort of outer limits of most of the cities. And it's a place where you go into and there's like a phone book of prostitutes pretty much, and call girls that you can meet up with, and salary men go in and out of them. But apparently, yeah, it's interesting to see this. I retweeted this because they actually have actual old-fashioned landline phones in there. It's a bit like going to buy a Playboy magazine from a shop. It's a bit nostalgic that people would still do this. It's an interesting read that this sort of thing even exists and people still go to this. The best onsen towns in Japan. You got to read it. Apparently, more millennial dads watch parenting videos than millennial mums. The reason for that is, it's because the parental dads have no idea what to do, so they're watching videos instead of actually parenting, while the mums are actually doing all the parenting. I'm pretty sure, but who knows? And it's not just millennial. I mean, geez, am I a millennial dad? I don't even know. YouTube Red series, Netflix, Daiwa Securities is, this is a big one. So Daiwa Securities has decided London's no longer the place to be, and they are moving their head of European operations to Frankfurt, because of course London won't be in Europe in a few years, and this is the start of a very of a trend which I think you're going to see grow, but this is a really significant one. Yes, Sergeant Brookout actually makes complete sense. In fact, that's probably why I thought of that term. It's because they're in a phone club. What else have we got in here? But yeah, there's not been a lot of news this week, which has been a good thing. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be away next week. I'm going to be taking next week off, but the week after that, I will be back in Japan, and I'll be away for business next week, but I'll be back at the end of the week after that, just in time for the Hanami. I will have swag. I will be there. If it is raining, we will be going to the hub. I will be sharing the information on Facebook of the information for it. Thanks to Zach. I think he's done a lot of work with organising that, and so I'll be sharing the information for the Hanami that he's organising. You better do a better job than Sam, or else I'll just take all the swag over to Sam's one. I like free market enterprise and competition, but let's face it. I mean, I think it's pretty clear at this point that it's going to be the Zach Hanami is the main one at the moment. So I'll see all of you guys there. It's going to be pretty awesome, and I'll be there with swag. And if not, we'll come to the hub if it's raining. And yeah, I hope you guys are all well. I'm going to take 5 minutes, have a bit of a drink of water, and then I'm going to come and do a quick post show in Japanese, about 20 minutes, just talking about all of this in Japanese. Can't wait to see you, Mr. Nakamura. It's going to be great to see you. And everybody else, come and see. I'm going to be there. It's going to be great. It's one of the 2 real chances in the year to come and see all of you beautiful people, and I'm looking forward to that indeed. And it looks like the flowers are going to be right on schedule this year. So it's going to be all the awesomeness, and I'm looking forward to seeing you. And take it easy. Boom. Peace. See you later.